Thousands of ships have been lost at sea. Some are found. Most are not. A Canary Island trading ship called the Fausto went missing in 1968. Then it was found. Then it was lost again, found again, and finally lost again. And each step brought another layer of mystery to the strange story of the Fausto.
Hi, welcome to the Weird World Podcast. My name's Carrie.
Hi, Carrie. I'm Dean.
Hi, Dean. I hear we're going to talk about the Fausto today.
You just heard that, didn't you?
I did.
You've never heard of it, have you?
I've never heard of it.
This is another one of those. I don't know. What do I have on my list? Like 1,800 potential
Do you really?
episodes or something like that.
Oh my gosh.
I can't remember. It's over 1,500 for sure.
I don't think we're going to live that long.
No, probably not. Well, we've done quite a few, a couple hundred plus. But anyway, this one actually is pretty new.
Wait, you don't know how many episodes we have?
I don't know. Almost 300?
Over 300.
Over 300.
Yeah.
Damn. Pretty impressive.
A little bit over 300.
All right. Anyway, this one is something I found about it not all that long ago, which, as you know, it always amazes me that I didn't know about it already. This is one of those, especially this happened quite a while ago. This happened in 1968. So, and it's a pretty amazing story. It's a strange tale. And it's not just the fact that this ship was lost and found, but how the circumstances around it are just inexplicable. I'm going to tell you right now, I will not have an answer for you at the end of this thing. I don't think you will either. It'd be interesting to try to, we can take our best guess though.
Okay.
Okay. So the Canary Islands are about 60 miles, about 100 kilometers off the coast of Morocco in northwest Africa, but still, despite being much closer to Africa than they are to Spain, they are and have been for a long time an integral part of the Spanish nation. The name Canary Islands means, can you imagine what it means?
Something about a bird, a little...
No.
Oh.
Think
Canaries
canine.
Huh?
Island of the dogs is what it means. They're talking about the Latin word canine for dog. Not little birds.
I prefer the little yellow birds.
That's a good one. And I bet you a lot of people think canaries come from the Canary Islands. And you know what? They might. But the word in this context means island of the dogs. Oh. It was inspired, actually, not by dogs, by the once plentiful Mediterranean monk seal, sometimes called a sea dog, that once inhabited the island's coastlines. They are now extinct. There's 2 tiny populations of Mediterranean monk seals left in the entire world. It's very sad. We've seen a Hawaiian monk seal, their close cousin. And there's a Caribbean monk seal that is sadly completely extinct now.
Wow.
Enough for nature. So the islands were known to ancient peoples, possibly as far back as the Phoenicians. They're not, they're sailable from Africa and even from Europe. So the Romans knew about them. It's possible even the Romans may have traded with the folks who were living on the Canary Islands. But they didn't have a lot of contact. They didn't have an ongoing relationship with the inhabitants. Then finally, the Spanish and the Portuguese in the 1300s and 1400s started more normally would trade with the natives, the aboriginals of the Canary Islands.
Okay, ethnically, what are they?
That's actually pretty amazing. The Guanches are Caucasian.
Oh.
Miraculously enough, I want to do an episode on the Guanches one of these days, but they're related closely to the Berbers of Africa, which are, so I technically they're Caucasian. They're partly olive, kind of dark olive skinned, and they're kind of the tribes of North Africa that inhabit still to this day. So some of their ancestors sailed out to the Canaries and established a population there on 7 main islands there.
That makes sense.
Yeah. In 1402, the Spanish King Henry III, actually he was the King of Castile in Spain, he decided that, you know what? I want them. I'm going to make the Canary Islands part of my kingdom. So the Spanish started to conquer the Guanches and attack these people. They'd been there for, we think, about 2,000 years. They often lived in caves, but they had a very rich culture. They fought back. There was lots of battles. And eventually, though, all the islands were taken over and essentially became part of Spain, and again remain so to this day. Now, as you know, it was not unusual for Europeans to wipe out Aboriginals and natives when they came across them, and they did the same to the Guanches. The difference being in this case that they weren't the normal kind of non-white inhabitants that
Right,
the Europeans typically would kill without remorse. Yeah, they did here too. So a couple centuries of war and slavery and disease wiped out the Guanches. They survive to this day, though. A few were assimilated into the Spanish population, but they're essentially an extinct culture and extinct peoples. They do have one part of their culture that survived. It's something called Silbo, and this is a really remarkable whistling language that they use to communicate, because the island is just tons and tons of these deep valleys, and so the Guanches would communicate with each other through these sharp, piercing whistling that could travel much farther than yelling, and then they developed this very sophisticated language based on whistles.
Oh,
Yeah, that's still around because the Spanish colonial population took it over, or learned it and kept it alive. To this day, the islands are kind of subtropical. Remember, because they're kind of aligned more or less with Morocco in terms of latitude. Today, over 2 million people live there. It's a thriving tourism industry. There are 7 major islands. You didn't know you're going to have a lesson about the Canary Islands, did you?
I figured as much.
The 7, they're main islands. The biggest 3 are Tenerife, Fuerteventura, and Gran Canaria. But our story is going to be 2 that lie at the westernmost end of the Canaries. They go kind of west to east, these 7 islands. The islands of La Palma and El Hierro, 2 of the smallest I think the 2 smallest of the 7 major islands. But that's where our story will take place. So Spain in 1968 was still in the iron grip of the fascist dictator Generalissimo Francisco Franco, who would die in 1975, finally. It was, hold on one second. So the economy had been really bad in the 40s and 50s, but it had been improving by this time. Tourism was major, as I mentioned a minute ago. So I just give you a little political context as well, because that may actually have something to do with the mystery here. So are you ready?
Yep.
Here's the story. The Canary Islands, as I mentioned, had a significant tourist trade there. They also exported like bananas and things like that. But the El Fausto was a fishing boat. It wasn't a pleasure boat. It was a working boat. But, at this time, the economy was still a little bit, sketchy. So you do what you have to survive. Whenever anyone would hire them to transport some things, they become a trading boat as well. So they'd move goods from one port to another along the Canaries. But they keep that in mind. It's not, they didn't go far. It was a fishing boat. It wasn't really seaworthy. It couldn't go for really long distances. It just traded amongst these little islands fairly close to one another.
Okay. Like how big?
About 46 feet. It's about 14 meters. It weighed about 20 tons. It's about 44,000 pounds, I believe. So they fished the local waters. They did some occasional trading and some island hopping trading. The name of the Fausto means splendid or happy in Spanish. You'll find some sources will assume it means Faust the play or the novel. It does not. It has nothing to do with it. Her base was the port of Tazacorte on the island of La Palma. Her owner was a guy named Rafael Acosta. He had several fishing boats, and another little kind of a little fleet of boats. He's a private businessman. He had a very reliable crew of locals. On most days, the ship would be manned by 4 people. They're like a family kind of. Ramon and Eliberto Hernandez were 47 and 42-year-old. They were brothers. The crewmates were their cousins, 43-year-old Miguel Acosta and 41-year-old Viterbo Acosta.
No. So was an entire family going to get wiped out?
We'll see, won't we? The Fausto had a quick run on July 20th, 1968. The ship is hired to transport cargo of explosives, a cargo of, I'm not sure what it was, I guess TNT.
Yeah.
They're going about 60 miles, about 100 kilometers from La Palma to the little island of El Hierro, basically due south. We'll show you a map of that route. Essentially, they're going to go 60 miles south. It'll take, I think they didn't go super fast.
Yeah.
So it would take, more than almost a day, but still it would, or not quite a day.
Yeah.
At least it would take many hours because, again, it wasn't a very fast ship, but it was a fine vessel, I'm sure. Okay. And so, again, this is kind of the western end of the Canary Archipelago. The explosive, by the way, were just for agriculture. They weren't anything nefarious.
Okay.
They weren't, nothing like that. It was a very rocky, mountainous island chain.
Yeah.
So the crew, though, would be a man short on this run. They just have 3 folks there. Because this is the day of a local festival on La Palma, and Viterbo Acosta was going to help out. at
Okay.
Tezzacorte. He's going to, I don't know if he's an official, whatever. He's going to help out with the festival, so he was going to stay back. He wouldn't go. And so, not a problem. 3 people is fine. They could run the little trading run without him. No worries whatsoever. Take about 7 hours.
Okay.
I exaggerated a minute ago. So they had cruised down there 60 miles an hour, 7 hours. So Ramon, Eliberto, and Miguel all leave, and they arrive at Frontera, the port on El Hierro during the night. It's dark. It's pretty late at night. I think before midnight. They unloaded their cargo, I'm sure very, very carefully, because it's explosives. And then they were able to, I guess, I don't know if it's planned, but they were able to get a very small shipment of fruit and sardines for the return trip to La Palma, so it wasn't just a dead run, I guess.
Yeah.
Right?
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Very efficient.
Very good. They would also, however, have a passenger.
Oh.
A 27-year-old mechanic named Julio Garcia. He had taken a job overseeing the irrigation system for a private estate on El Hierro. He was like an engineer. He was young, and he had a small family. He left behind his wife, Luz, and their 2 children. Had I think a year-old son. No, I think it was a 5-year-old son. He was a 5-year-old son and a 2-month-old daughter had stayed behind. So I guess he wasn't there permanently, but he's going to be there for months.
Yeah.
And the little girl, though, he had gotten word that she had fallen ill. The little 2-month-old baby had gotten sick. And his wife told him, hey, she's going to have these pretty serious antibiotics injected tomorrow. So he has to get home right away. And so he, by minutes, missed the normal boat back to La Palma. And the next one wasn't for 2 days. So he just started hanging out at the port.
Oh.
And hoping to hitch a ride. And who's leaving, who's coming. The Fausto got there and was going to turn around pretty quickly and unload it. So he begged, can you take me back to my home in La Palma? That's because he found out that's where they're going.
Yeah.
And he said, I'll pay you for my passage. Please take me home. My little girl's sick. The Fausto crew said,
of course.
Absolutely. In fact, we won't take your money.
Yeah.
We're going anyway.
Right.
It's just going to be, 7 hours or so. Again, don't worry about it. You can come along. That was nice. That was very nice of them. The Fausto loaded up their fruit and sardines or whatever, and they were ready to go about 2:30 in the morning. Now, July 21st, 1968. It should take another, 7+ hours or so to get back to the port at Tezzacorte on the island of La Palma. They would never make it.
They all fell asleep.
That's what you would hope for it to be. Here's a picture, by the way. We'll put this picture.
Slept a little bit first.
There's no.
Okay.
That's a picture of the course to the island. I'll show you a couple more pictures.
Seems like a fairly straight shot.
Very straight shot. It's due north-south now, so they're going to be heading, again, back from Frontera to Tezzacorte, from the island of El Hierro to La Palma. Not a worry. Again, it's in the Atlantic Ocean.
Right.
But so it's not nothing, but it's a calm day.
Yeah.
The weather was great. So, and again, this is something they did all the time.
So, yeah.
Yep. There on that night, they did have a report of very calm seas. Later in the morning, a mist kind of started forming around these islands. And some people said, the visibility is a little bit obscure, but it wasn't that bad. There were other boats sailing around this area right there at the same time. And they all said, it's fine. Conditions are fine. The Fausto was expected to get to Tezzacorte around 10 a.m. or so on July 21st. But as I mentioned, they didn't. It's an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours. Still no Fausto. So Rafael Acosta and the families of the crew start to get worried. Acosta, again, was the owner.
Right.
He thought, okay, maybe they had some mechanical problems. It was an older boat. It had some mechanical issues in the past. He said maybe something happened. They're stuck out there.
They have communication, right? They have a radio?
I have no idea.
Oh.
No source I read says anything about them ever trying to contact anybody by radio. But clearly these ships had radios at this time.
Right.
You'll hear other times. They made no radio communication with Acosta when they were late.
Yeah.
You'll see later they make no radio communication again when they really, really should have. It's baffling. Okay. So I never read anything that said their radio was broken or they didn't have a radio. It'd be weird if a 46-foot fishing vessel did not have a radio. That'd be. I don't know for a fact they had a radio. To me, it seems weird in 1968 that they wouldn't have a radio. When clearly other boats did. So that's a great question. I don't know the answer to it.
Huh.
It appears if they did have a radio, they didn't use it, which adds to the mystery. Acosta says, okay, he's got other boats. He tells one of his boats, just do that route. backtrack that route, do the same, because remember, they're coming back to La Palma from
Right.
El Hierro. You just go the other way till you get to El Hierro on the route that they would normally take and see what
Hopefully
you see.
you'll see them.
Yeah. If you see them, be able to fix or even bring them back or tow them or whatever. And so hours later, the crew of the second vessel radios back to La Palma from El Hierro and said, we've got here no sign of the Fausto on the entire route. We cannot find them. So now Acosta, the owner of the boat, is pretty concerned. That seems odd to him. They should have been, they could drop anchor if they were, the engine gave out or something like that. So he calls the authorities, the Spanish authorities, and he says, I have a mission ship. I'm going to need help.
Yeah.
It's beyond my capability now. So help came. And help came in a big way. It's another one of these things that are kind of mysterious here. Emergency services sent a radio message to all ships around the archipelago, keep an eye out for the Fausto. Again, so all these ships have radio.
Yeah.
But there's no communication from them. A bomber from Gran Canaria, which is, I think, the biggest island or the most populated island, it flew west in absolutely perfect weather. Now, this is the daytime. It soared over the route that they would have took and kind of zigzagged around it, but from the air, even no sign of the El Fausto anywhere near their route.
How long when they're overdue? Like 24 hours?
This is later in the day. They should have got there around 10, but they left about 2:30 in the morning.
Right.
So they've been last seen at 2:30, but they should have got there at 10 a.m. or so. This is probably late afternoon now.
Okay.
Something
Wow.
like that.
So that's pretty quick.
It's very quick. Yeah, no. They reacted pretty quickly. The authorities. It must have been.
It must be later because
Yeah, it must be later. You're right.
Their other boat was able to get all the way there,
Yeah.
which would be 7 hours.
You'd think,
right?
unless it went faster. I don't know.
Yeah.
The El Fausto was pretty slow.
Yeah.
So that other boat may have gone faster.
Okay.
But you're right. It might be. But they wouldn't have sent that plane out unless it was daylight still. So it had to still be daylight. This is summer, so the sun sets close to 8 p.m.
Okay.
So it's probably,
Okay.
that's basically early evening, but there's still light.
Right.
So over the next few days, this expanding flotilla of ships and a squadron of planes actually start scouring the ocean around the islands searching for the Fausto. It's a pretty insignificant search effort.
Yeah.
They circled in these kind of widening arcs from the air. Soon, however, the authorities and the families had to come to a very painful conclusion. They thought maybe the Fausto wasn't just a mission ship.
sank,
Maybe it wasn't adrift. Maybe it had sunk.
Yeah.
And this is the Atlantic Ocean, so good luck with that. It's very sad. 4 days later, still no Fausto. They're probably, and this is where the search is winding down essentially. But on July 25th.
Wait, I have a question.
Yes.
I mean, clearly somebody knew that one guy who was going back to his family was on the boat.
Julio.
But did his wife know?
Oh, yeah. I'm sure he told them from the port before they left. Maybe he found out, and they probably left a couple hours later or something like that.
Okay,
and,
so they immediately knew that he was on.
He was on the ship, yes.
Okay.
So they always knew they knew the three guys and Julio were on the ship.
Okay.
The boat. 4 days after the Fausto had not made it back home, this July 25th now, a radio message reached the Spanish maritime authorities. A British ship called the Duchess that was heading from South America, I believe Venezuela, to the Netherlands. So kind of near the Canaries, but not that super close to them through that part of the southern North Atlantic. This is north of the equator, but not that far from the equator. They spotted a fishing boat, and it appeared to be unmanned because it was just drifting kind of listlessly. So they radio in that, and they go and they check it out, and they go closer. It's midnight now. The reason they can see it, though, is because they noticed that someone has seen the Duchess approaching. I don't know how stars and moons have enough light, I guess.
Yeah.
Because they started seeing this light flash on. Someone, it appeared, was using a flashlight to signal their position in the water. So the Duchess starts going over closer and closer. And I assume with the radio call, well, maybe not. If the Duchess would have known about the Fausto or not, they may not have if they weren't part of that, localized radio warning.
Yeah.
But the Duchess gets closer, and it reached the ship name and the registration, and it says Fausto. So they found the Fausto. It's in the ocean. It's not sunk, but
there's somebody on it.
Then there's someone on it. But rather than being somewhere roughly between La Palma and El Hierro, right? It is 120 miles west of La Palma. That is further out into the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, away from the islands. Here's a convenient little map for you here as well. You can see they're nowhere near you remember the map for the route was just a straight shot. These islands are in a north and south of vertical line. It is far,
So
far, far to the west.
They lost, something happened to their engine.
Yeah.
And then they drifted, but you said earlier, why wouldn't they have dropped an anchor?
Why wouldn't they would have dropped an anchor? Yeah, it's very, very odd. But that still makes the most sense, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter who let's say they didn't care how they got there. The important thing was, hey, they got on board. Everybody was fine. All four, the three crew and the passenger, Julio Garcia, were in pretty good shape. They're kind of thirsty.
Yeah.
They had not had enough water for this amount of
They
time.
had fruit, though.
A little hungry. I guess
Right?
they ate the bananas and sardines.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh, it was just bananas?
It was bananas and sardines I mean, they had some food, but remember, we're going to make a 7-hour trip. It wasn't a very long trip, so they didn't have a lot of food and water.
Yeah.
But they're alive. They're a little freaked out, though.
Yeah.
Because they did have kind of a near-death experience. News reaches La Palma. The Duchess radios in and says, we found the Fausto. There's joy in the islands. The Fausto had become kind of pretty locally famous by this time, so everyone's super happy. There's going to be this happy ending. Oh, shoo. That's the exclamation of the islands.
I don't know why. For some reason, I'm still worried.
You should be, because otherwise we probably wouldn't be doing this.
No.
The Duchess had some Spanish-speaking crew members aboard, and so they communicated with the crew of the Fausto, and they brought up a little food and water and some cigarettes, because it's 1968 and it's Europe, and they were on board the Fausto, the Spanish-speaking crew members from the Duchess, and they said, hey, give us a rope, we'll hook you up, we'll cable you, we'll tow you, we'll go out of our way, 120 miles, we'll tow you back to La Palma before we continue on to the Netherlands.
Very nice.
Very, very nice of them. That's where the story should have ended. But again, if that was what the story ended, we wouldn't be talking about it right now. So it's not. The Fausto crew said, thank you, that's very kind of you, but we respectfully decline. And they must have said, ¿qué? What now? What did you just say? You don't want us to tow you back? Nope, we don't. Just give us a little food and water like you did. Give us enough fuel to sail. Give us, say, 18 hours or so, just to be safe. And we'll sail, or,
So they weren't disabled.
So they weren't disabled. They're saying, well, wait a second. Why are you sitting here adrift? They said, the engine's fine. Don't worry about us. We ran out of gas now.
Okay,
and they didn't run out of gas. There's no way. What are they doing 120 miles?
Right.
So they had plenty of fuel for the 7-hour trip to get back to La Palma from El Hierro. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Remember, they would have fueled up back on
Maybe they forgot.
El Hierro. Even if they forgot, they'd have enough fuel. I mean, again, it could take on more than 18 hours of fuel at top speed.
Yeah.
The crew of the Duchess is absolutely baffled. It didn't make any sense to them. Again, if your engine's okay, what are you doing here? It doesn't make sense that you ran out of gas they wouldn't have run out of gas on the first day.
And they saw all four people.
Yeah.
And all four were okay. We're not covering up a murder or anything.
Nope. So rather than search and rescue, they said, we'll be on our way alone. You go on ahead.
Right.
So the Fausto says it needs to just do about 120 miles from where they are, and they'll be back to La Palma. Sure, they'll be 4 days late, or more than 4 days late, but what the hell?
I would think Julio would be frantic.
I know. That doesn't make any sense. None of this makes sense. None of them would. There's no reason for them not to have allowed to be towed.
Yeah.
Even if you're, who knows, did the engine go out and then they just got it fixed when the Duchess got there? Doesn't make any sense.
No, yeah. You wouldn't want to take the chance.
No. So,
Okay.
and again, how do they get 120 miles out to the west off course? It's a long way. And it would take, I remember this is a slow ship. The ship goes about, I think it said, God, I have it here somewhere. I'll get to it. But that would take a long time for them to go. Again, they estimated something like 18 hours to get back. Or not quite 18 hours, but probably something like 14, 15 hours to get back.
If it takes 7 hours to go 60 miles, then...
It would take 14 hours or so to get back. So they asked for 18 hours of funeral as a cushion.
Yeah.
And the Duchess gave it to them.
Okay.
So the Duchess crew is baffled, but they gave them what they want. They gave them a little more food, a little more water, and they gave them the fuel, and they said, see ya. And so the Duchess, while they see the Fausto heading back east, the Duchess continues north. And
so they saw them actually start to move.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, they did. And I mean, who knows how long?
Right.
I'm sure they weren't in range very long.
Yeah.
But the Duchess would say, no, the crew, everybody seemed fine. Everybody seemed normal. Again, they seemed a little bit freaked out by the experience, but they were fine. They seemed rational. That's the key. They seem like perfectly rational folks, maybe a little scared, but rational, which again makes their decision even more perplexing if they were not of sound mind. But
especially Julio.
Yeah, there's 4 of them too. Well, somebody is going to shut the hell up. We're taking the tow.
Yeah.
So they all agreed, no tow. And if Julio didn't agree, he didn't feel himself able to disagree.
I mean, honestly, if the other 3 people whose boat this is their thing, said no, we're fine, I would have said, I'm going with you to the Netherlands. I'll catch an airplane back.
Well, I don't know if he had that kind of cash.
I wouldn't care. You'd figure it out.
Well, he figured. I mean, he probably figured. We don't know what he figured. We don't know what they were thinking.
But this tells you that he's not afraid. He's not going to make it home, right?
I guess maybe we'll see.
Okay.
So the Duchess watches the Fausto head east, and they decide to radio Tazacorte and tell them what's going on. And they said, given the speed of that boat, we expect them to be there about 7 p.m. back at Tazacorte on La Palma. So expect them then.
Okay. So they know they can send another boat out now.
They could.
They know where they're coming from, right?
They do, but they're not going. They'll just wait for them to arrive.
No, sure. But I mean, if they don't show up in whatever time there's again.
Yeah. Well, again, though, this also brings up the radio communication. So it's not the Fausto radioing.
It's the
will be there. It's the Duchess. So there,
Sounds like
I don't understand
have a radio.
That's really weird to me. Every boat had a radio. You heard that all boats look for this boat thing.
Yeah.
Baffling. And no one says it. Like I said, no source I read said anything like, oh, and by the way, their radio is broken.
I mean, maybe it's just because they have such a small route that a short route, it's not.
You're going 60 miles over open Atlantic Ocean. You're going to want a radio. So.
One would think.
And sometimes longer. So word that the Fausto crew were safe and expected to be back that evening spread across La Palma, and everybody's just massive relief. Remember, they have lots of friends. It's a small town.
Yeah.
So it's a few thousand people live there, I believe. So people start anticipating, okay, you know what? They're going to be here at 7 o'clock. So as the ETA grew closer and closer, people started just gravitating to the port. A bunch of the town, a big section of the town was there already by 6 p.m. in kind of almost like a party atmosphere.
Yeah.
Like it's very joyous. By 7 p.m., everyone's excited. They'll be here in a minute. They peer out in the ocean as the sun is going to start to set to the east behind them. No Fausto. The sun sets 1 minute before 8 p.m. on that day. I looked it up. And still, no Fausto. Now it's dark.
God.
It's 9 p.m. It's 10 p.m. It's 10 o'clock. And so on and so on. That expected jubilant arrival, it never happens. The Fausto is again missing.
Oh my God.
It would be mad and perplexed. The families of the crew, I don't know if they knew yet. The Duchess, I doubt the Duchess said, "Hey, we offered a tow." They didn't go. But eventually, when they'll talk to the crew of the Duchess, and the Duchess will say, "We offered them a tow," and they said no. So they just know that they should have been there. Mm-hmm. They had fuel, they had food, and they're not. The families of the crew of the Fausto, they stayed there all night long, out on the port, waiting the whole night, into the early morning, walking the docks and scanning the now, I imagine, very dark Atlantic. But second time, it's gone. So this deja vu is now July 26th. And what happens, the second search for the Fausto starts again at dawn. 4 Casa 2.111 planes, not 100% sure what they are, left Gran Canaria Island, and they flew right to the point where the Duchess said we last saw them, where they gave them their food and the fuel.
Yeah.
And they just started, doing again, searching the entire area, searching the way back, searching that whole area around in a radius around that last point of contact, and searching the route they would have taken, the very direct route they would have taken back to La Palma. Many ships joined the fray. There's military, there's civilian, there's even some research vessels. Every ship in the area is kind of looking around for the Fausto. Again, the Spanish government sent a Grumman hydroplane and 2 Douglas DC-4s to join in the search. It became the biggest oceanic search attempt in the history of Spain at the time. It would cost, at the time, about 1 million pesetas. I don't know what that is. One source, and I kind of figured out it was $2.8 million today. Not real sure about that, but still, it's a very expensive, major effort. The search dragged on for almost 2 weeks this time, and finally was called off on August 7th, 1968, when they still had not found the Fausto. So now it was officially listed as lost at sea.
Yeah.
And then weeks drag on. Months drag on, no Fausto. Are we done? We're not done. On October 9th, 1968, it's been about 2.5 months for the families of the Fausto to kind of realize they were, they're
gone.
They're gone, yeah. And it was even, the search was long over. It's beginning to, not forgotten. That's not the right word, but it had fallen.
Right.
Okay, that was a sad story. The Fausto was lost at sea with all hands going down. But that was not quite the end of the story. An Italian ship called the Anna de Maio was on the way to Venezuela with, let's say, a cargo of, let's say, Prosecco. I have no idea. So you're going from Italy, and it's going to pass.
Not.
It's passing over near the Canaries and to the west of them. They were cruising through the mid-Atlantic, and it was kind of an overcast morning. And someone on deck of the Anna de Maio saw something bobbing in the calm ocean water in the distance. So they closed in. They get a little closer, and they realize, oh, it's a boat. And they saw, oh yeah, look, that looks like a fishing boat. What boat do you suppose this is?
The Fausto.
Well, they look at it and they think, that shouldn't be out here. Yeah. That's a close to shore kind of fishing boat. What's that doing way out here? Because we're now in pretty much the middle of, they're further west from where the Duchess had found them. They're as if they're going toward or drifting towards South America. I looked that up, by the way. I do think the oceanic currents would move them west in that approximate direction. I think. I'm no oceanographer, whatever would do that kind of a thing. So they got closer. This is daylight, and they look, and now there's no sign of anyone on deck. It just appears to be kind of rolling in the waves, look completely seaworthy, but they don't see anyone on board. It's now a kind of little mini Mary Celeste.
Yeah.
Mary Celeste? Did I do that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I confused that with the Edgar Allan Poe story. So they arrived in the boat, and they see the registration number, and it's TE2 1268, and then they make out kind of the faded script of the name, and it says El Fausto. They have found the El Fausto for a second time. It had moved west, again, here's a map of where they were, from where the Duchess, it's not going to help, but you can see they're more or less in the middle of Atlantic, 15 degrees above north of the equator. Yeah. They're just absolutely in the middle of the open ocean.
Wow.
Nowhere near the Canaries anymore.
How far away from the Canaries are they now?
More than the 120 miles from before, quite a bit more.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, though, to be honest with you, but a lot. They're well out into the ocean, well to the west.
They've been drifting for months.
Exactly. 2.5 months now. Anna de Maio, first mate Luciano Acioni, and another crew member, they get on board the Fausto, and they start looking around. You have to figure they're a little bit unnerved, wouldn't you be?
Yeah,
It seems like a ghost ship at this point. Again, the boat seems in perfect order.
I'd be afraid of encountering dead bodies.
Yeah, I know. I mean, ghost ships, by the way, are not as uncommon as you think. Ships that are still afloat and are abandoned are more common than you might realize, and they must seem very, very eerie, though. So they call out. No one answers their calls. Again, it just seems like the boat's crew had vanished in the thin air. So, and remember, this is the same crew that told the Duchess, hey, we're fine, just give us some fuel, we'll be back on our way. And the same thing happened to them again.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense. They're hundreds of miles in the wrong direction. Even worse this time, because the first mate, Acioni, he would actually go down into the hole, and he would indeed find a body. First, he finds a logbook. I'm sorry. First, he searches for a logbook, and he realizes there is no logbook, so there's no way of knowing what happened in that time.
Yeah.
At least it can kind of give him a clue of what happened up until twice, at least, what happened to them. So, but he goes down, he opens the hatch, and he goes down below deck, and he does find one body. That's it. He saw a man lying face up naked, very near the engine of the boat. He has a little transistor radio next to him. I don't know, is it listening or something? And it was not a fresh corpse. It was essentially kind of mummified by the wind. So it's been dead for a while. This person has been dead for a while. And Alcione stayed on the Fausto while the other sailor went back, maybe a dinghy, I don't know how they do that, and went back to the Anna de Maio and told him what happened. And so the Anna de Maio radios to the authorities and said, hey, we found the Fausto. It's way out here, hundreds of miles now away from where it should be. While they're doing that, the first mate is searching the engine room, and he finally finds something that maybe could help. it's a notebook and has writing in it. So he figures that notebook is found near the dead man. It must belong to the dead man. So he starts glancing through it. He didn't read Spanish. He was Italian, presumably.
Yeah.
But he can glean a little bit from it.
Yeah.
And he notices that there's a little bit something that's odd is that a huge chunk of the notebook appears to be missing. It's just been ripped out. Once the notebook is in custody and it's examined, the authorities would find that the notebook was missing 28 pages. Oh. What's on that mysterious missing 28 pages is the answer to the mystery, because we'll never know. The pages that remained there in the notebook didn't have really any explanation for what had happened to the Fausto, so we presume that was probably in the 28 pages.
Right.
They did bear some notations from the writer, as if like he's doing like longhand calculations, like there's some numbers and there are some notes scrawled. The last writing, though, ended right before the missing 28 pages, which kind of implies the 28 pages were at the end.
Yeah.
This is a little bit weird. I'll get to this in a minute. The Ana de Mayo hooks up the smaller Fausto, with the tow cable, and they radio ahead to Puerto Cabello in Venezuela, which is where they're heading to. And they said, we'll have the Fausto, we'll tow it to Venezuela, and turn it over to authorities. And now the word is getting just back to Spain, but that's just happening as well. And they said they had an envelope. They said they'd send it back to Spain when they got to Venezuela, and that it would contain, quote, some documents found aboard. Didn't say anything about the notebook. But the early morning, 2 days later, October 11th, the Ana de Mayo sent a telegram to the Spanish maritime authorities. The maritime authorities in Spain probably said, "What the hell?" Because the Fausto had disappeared a third time. At some point in the dark hours there, the Ana de Mayo, so they're towing the Fausto back to South America, and no one knows what happened. The boat, again, was plenty seaworthy, but somehow it sunk. And as it sinks into beneath the Atlantic, it snaps the cable and pulls the half a cable down with it, and it goes down to the bottom of the ocean with half a tow cable, and is never seen again. Has never been seen to this day. So it has been floating for 2.5 months. And yet here it does, as soon as just a couple days into its tow back to South America, it sinks and snaps the cable. That's a little weird too.
With the dead body on it. So we don't know who it is.
We do. Okay. But again, presuming the dead body is the person who wrote the notebook, which it almost certainly is. We do know who that is. But, the boat's position was still about 1,800 miles northeast of Venezuela, about 1,400 miles southwest of the Canaries. Okay, so I do know. It's about 14. That's where it was. Okay. That's where it sunk. So they've been pulling it for a day and a half or something like that, 2 days or so. So, but still. So now the Fausto to this day sits somewhere in the bottom of the middle of the Atlantic. Though the Ana de Mayo had kept the documents, so they did have that and the notebook, or the
Thank God.
remnant of the notebook. The body, as you suppose, went down to the sea presumably to join his missing comrades, because they're not there.
Yeah.
The brothers and cousin aren't there. When the notebook finally did make its way back to La Palma and was seen by the families of the Fausto, Luz Garcia said, "That's Julio's. That's my husband's. That's his writing. He kept this notebook all the time. He did it for his jobs. He was like an engineer, so he kept jobs he had, jobs that owed him money and things like that in this notebook. It was a habit of his, so it was for sure his. He had the last page that I mentioned a minute ago that remained was a goodbye note from Julio to Luz, and he made sure she had the information she would need for his insurance and to tell her where the title to his properties are so she could sell them, things like that, kind of taking care of her. The very, very last words were, quote, were kind of a request. Quote, "Don't ever tell the name of their 5-year-old son. All that has happened to me, you know that God wanted this fate for me. Love you," unquote. So don't say what happened to me. You know that God wanted this fate for me. I have to presume, we'll talk about this in a minute when we talk about theories, that he expected her to read those 28 pages and that all would be revealed, but they weren't. So, and if that's not true, that's very strange. Again, let's get to that in just a second. So I don't know if Luz fulfilled Julio's request and never mentioned it to their 5-year-old son, but she kept that last page in her possession for the rest of her life, and she never remarried. So the mystery of the strange behavior and stranger fate of the Fausto and his crew has never been solved to this day. But now we're going to try. So how did this happen? Let's start with some questions before we get to the answers, possible answers, or at least our attempts at answers. What caused the trouble that led to the first time the Fausto was disabled?
Who the hell knows?
But still, something. It doesn't. Like you said, and like we've talked about already, why haven't they communicated during any of that time?
Yeah.
It's a mystery they didn't have a radio. If they didn't have a working radio, that's a mystery. But it makes the refusal of the tow even more ridiculous.
Yes.
So I don't know if they did have engine problems, which it seems clear they must have had some kind of engine problems. Why they say we don't have any engine problems?
Yes.
We're fine. We just need some gas.
Yeah.
It's baffling. And if they did have engine problems, they would have taken the tow. It makes no sense. Why did they say nothing to the Duchess when they were first found?
Yeah.
They were, like I said, the Duchess people said they were kind of distressed, they're kind of upset, but they didn't talk about any engine trouble or any kind of trouble that found them 120 miles off course.
Yeah.
And then, of course, why not accept the tow from the Fausto? That was just utterly inexplicable. So with plenty of fuel, then continue the questions.
Right.
Why did the Fausto not make it back to La Palma that second time after they sailed away from the Duchess? Again, it seems as if, honestly, it seems as if they were not intending to return home either time.
What do we know
almost
about,
as if there's their choice.
Yeah. So what do we know about the three
Hold
operators of the boat?
All good. So hold on one second. That one.
Okay.
I'll finish the question. So why did they then apparently head west away from the Canaries after leaving the Duchess? Because again, either they had 18 hours of fuel. They said they had an engine that ran. So they'd go east back to the Canaries. They either cut out and drifted west almost immediately, or they headed west because they were found to the west.
And these are people who know which way to go.
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
They know exactly where they were. So, I mean, was the boat unmanned? Was Julio killed or something like that and dead, and was the boat unmanned for all that time? Or at what point did the other three leave the boat and were no longer on the boat? We don't know. Did they just drift with the ocean current that entire time? And then what happens to the crew besides Julio?
Yeah.
Were they forced off the ship? Did they jump off the ship? Was there, again, they were family. They knew each other very well. They were. What happened to those 28 pages in Julio's notebook? That's a huge one.
Yeah.
Did Julio remove them himself? Doesn't seem right. And
no, because it seems like he's referring.
It sure
to them.
seems like he is. Yeah. So it doesn't make sense for him to. So who did?
Was it one of the other three?
One of the others, or is there someone completely
somebody else?
different was on
Pirates.
board that ship? Yeah, something like that. Another crew member or someone else. And of course, why were they ripped out? Who was hiding what from that? And finally, last question: what the hell did Julio Garcia's message mean? What fate did he refer to? That what? Even now I'm gonna, in these next 28 pages, I'm gonna explain what's happened to us, and I'll explain all the mystery. So this fate had to befall me. What the hell does that mean?
Yeah.
I don't understand. And don't tell our son what happened to me. I don't get that. So he had to have in the next pages been explaining, here's what happened to me.
Right.
I don't know. It's bad. I can't even think of a scenario. What are you going to say in those 28 pages that happened to you that you don't tell your son, unless it's something that you're doing that's bad, right?
No, there are things that could happen to a person that you don't want your children to know about.
I suppose. And he talked about it in the 28 pages that were taken out. Yeah, you're right. So let's run through a few of the theories to provide a kind of a framework. Some theories that folks have said, here's what we think happened. Some people think that the crew was escaping, that they essentially were going to search for a better life. It sounds weird because, Spain, modern country, 1968, again, the Spanish economy had been doing better, but still wasn't great. And it was also a dictatorship. But it wasn't like it was this, behind the Iron Curtain kind of a thing. They had trade with all the other Western European countries, etc. So, but still, were they escaping this fascist dictatorship? Venezuela at the time was a booming economy. So there had been some people who had fled from Spain to Venezuela at the time. So were they trying to get to Venezuela?
But did they do it on the fly? after they told Julio they'd take him back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It makes no sense.
If they were planning on it, they wouldn't have
no way
let Julio
They would
come with
never have
them.
let Julio on.
Yeah.
Also, as I mentioned, the economy was kind of improving in 1968. Would they risk it, something like that, in a fishing boat?
No.
You know,
yeah.
that's it wasn't seaworthy enough to
Yeah.
make it to Venezuela. So it's one thing if you're escaping North Korea or something like that, you'll take your chances.
Right.
But this wasn't like that.
Yeah.
They were all decently well-to-do. They were comfortable. They
Yeah.
weren't wealthy, but they were comfortable. They had a decent living. They had families back on the island. It doesn't make any sense. And again, yeah, there's no way they say yes to him
right.
if they're really going to do
planning
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that theory doesn't seem likely. And nor does it seem likely that any of them would have left their families or their life to go to Venezuela
Yeah.
or whatever. So no, let alone in that boat. So next theory is, did they see something they should not have seen? This is during the Cold War. The height of the Cold War was pretty hot at this time. Did they, I don't know, did they see a Soviet ship commit some atrocity, or did they see some kind of secret Soviet or even U.S. craft or something like that they shouldn't have seen or something like that? No one knows. The American nuclear submarine called the USS Scorpion had sunk in the Atlantic a few months before this occurred. It was a very famous event because it was a nuclear sub and it sunk and
Yeah.
all hands were killed.
Yeah.
And it was a very valuable thing. So the Russians were going to try to find it, and the U.S. was going to try to find it as well. But this is months later. It wasn't necessarily right in that same area. It's highly unlikely. And what you just sink the boat.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you want to get rid of it, you don't force them to tell the Duchess not to be towed and then force
No.
them to go. It doesn't make any sense. So that's kind of weird. It doesn't really explain
No.
their interaction or their reaction to the Duchess or anything else, or let alone where they were, or that they're still afloat. So
Yeah.
no, that doesn't make any sense to me. There are some dumber theories though, if it's possible. So the Fausto was boat napped by a Nazi fugitive. People think that, okay, they say Nazi fugitive because that's sexy, but someone forced them, said, no, I'm taking this boat, you're taking me to Venezuela, or something like that, somewhere in South America. They think Nazis were escaping.
Where did they come upon them?
God knows.
Yeah.
Yeah, why are they in the Canaries? Had they been hiding in the Canaries since the end of World War II?
Yeah.
And now they choose a fishing boat to escape to South America, a boat that's not seaworthy at all or capable of making that. That's your choice to make it there. I don't know. It's just, but some idea that like a stowaway or someone, I don't know how that would work, force them against their will to take them further west. And, so they're going the first time they go west, but there's something happens to the engine maybe or something like that. And the Duchess gives them fuel and they do get the engine working and then go further west until something bad happens. But it doesn't make any sense. Where's the crew? Why was Julio Garcia still on board? And again, looking like he had been dead since fairly early in the incident.
Right.
So also does not make sense. It did actually kind of make the rounds. The whole Nazi fugitive thing, that made the rounds at the time on the Canaries. But it's kind of dumb. There are some theories that seem a little bit more possible. Was the Fausto involved in something illegal? Right? Drugs, guns, something like that.
Yeah.
So to explain why they refused help when they were first adrift, at least I think it would, because they still needed to unload their illegal cargo, and the Duchess is going to bring them right back into the hands of the port authorities, and maybe their illegal cargo be found or something like that, and they needed to go somewhere else with this illegal cargo, somewhere not back to Canaries maybe, or to a different island. We don't know. Maybe Morocco or the Spanish mainland.
If they were doing something illegal, they would not have brought Julio along with them.
Yep, that is a kind of a deal breaker. It doesn't make any sense to bring Julio unless, and there's no chance that Julio would be part of that.
No.
They didn't, he wasn't supposed to be going anywhere.
Right.
It was weird that he was getting on a boat only because of emergency, and they had no contact. They didn't know who he was.
Yeah.
So that doesn't feel right, but it feels warmer than anything else so far.
Yeah.
Did they just, I don't know. Did they decide to take this illegal cargo? I mean, maybe it's just something simple, and they didn't figure that their fuel capacity wouldn't allow it, and they ran out of gas or something like that. I don't know. And Julio wasn't going to say anything. Still, yeah, I know. I mean, if it was like illegal but not super illegal, who knows? I don't know. I don't know what that could be. So, but then still the same thing. Now, when they get the offer from a tow back to the Duchess, they'd have to have not made it to their intended destination yet.
Yeah.
I don't know. Could it have been something like their criminal contacts who they're doing this for, came after them, found them. They weren't on time. So I don't know, bad guys came and got them or something like that. Were they kidnapped? Is that why? And maybe the other three were kidnapped off pirates, like you said, but Julio was able to maybe hide in the hold somewhere and avoid being kidnapped or something like that. And so he was left behind to die. I don't know.
Yeah.
And it's possible that could be true because they wouldn't have known. If it is bad guys they had contacts with and the bad guys turned on them, they wouldn't have known Julio. So to say, no, it's just us three. The other guy, I forgot, Acosta didn't make it, didn't come on this trip or for whatever reason. They wouldn't know about Julio, so Julio could have hidden.
Yeah, but then what happened to the 28 pages?
Yeah, I know it.
That would mean Julio would have had to have ripped them out himself.
Yeah, that makes no sense. If they found the notebook, it was found close to his body, so that doesn't make sense. If the bad guys found the notebook and ripped out, these 28 pages, that doesn't make sense. So, and there's no evidence whatsoever that the Fausto had ever done anything illegal like that at all. These were these are family men. And again, they were doing okay financially. They didn't necessarily need dirty money or something like that. No, not to say
it doesn't make
it's impossible, but
yeah, sure, anything is possible, but I wouldn't besmirch their memories without evidence.
Could they have been boarded by pirates or something like that? And like maybe even when the Duchess got there, they're like, there's 3 pirates down below decks with machine guns saying, if you guys say anything to the Duchess, just be, get some food and water and tell them we'll be on our way. Otherwise, we're going to start firing.
Yeah.
Who knows? There could have been something like that, I suppose. Or and maybe force them to use the boat for something nefarious, something like that.
Yeah. See, those questions you would want to ask somebody on the Duchess. Did you see all 4 of them at the same time? Were they all above deck or whatever? You know what I mean?
I think they saw them all.
Feasible, to signal, take us with you kind of thing. I don't know.
It's not that big a boat.
Exactly.
Yeah. That does seem weird.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not impossible.
They say they saw all 4 of them.
Yeah. But there could have been people just right below decks, one step away from coming out of the hatch and opening fire if the Fausto crew said anything, something like that.
I guess so.
Unlikely, but at least, again, now we're at least in the realm of possibility.
Yeah.
And even that could have been like, say, a fugitive or something like that. Maybe a fugitive needed a trip to, again, not Venezuela, that's stupid, but to Spain or Morocco, maybe.
If it's me, I would still risk it because what are they going to do with you when you get to the end of your trip?
Yeah, I know it. Send them adrift, apparently.
Or kill you. Or kill you. If they've got guns, they're going to,
Yeah, I know. Why not just kill them?
Yeah.
Well, they may have killed the 3 crewmen and left Julio alive for some reason. Or again, Julio may have successfully hidden from them.
But that's what I'm saying. That's why I would have said something I would have figured out a way to signal to them that we are in distress and
you would think
just take my chances.
Well, most people think the answer is something very prosaic, like the Fausto had some kind of a setback at sea. It derailed their initial trip, and then they just made a really dumb decision to not take the tow, and then the same thing happened again. It's like this cascading effect of bad decisions. It's kind of it's almost like the accepted answer. And maybe they were really irrational already when they said no to the tow from the Duchess. There was, I don't know. And then, again, something similar happened on the second time around. But honestly, in my mind, this is a case where the prosaic, I think, makes no sense. I don't buy the quote-unquote skeptical answer here at all. I just don't.
That they just made?
Yeah, they just made dumb decisions. It doesn't.
I don't either.
It seems much more mysterious than that, much more inexplicable than that. You're desperate. You just were 4 days adrift. You're 120 miles off course. You don't slap the hand that reached out to help you. You lunge for that hand. Of course you accept the tow. It doesn't make any sense. So that I'm baffled. And then even if it was a dumb decision, how does it happen again?
Yeah. I mean, what happens to your brain when you're really dehydrated?
I don't know.
Because they would have been pretty dehydrated.
Probably,
they wouldn't have had enough water.
Yeah. For 4 days, yeah.
Yeah, so I wonder.
I don't know. But you still, all 4 of you are going to be that irrational in the same way. That's weird. That doesn't make any sense. You're all going to say, nah, we're fine. We don't need it. That to me, that seems weird. If there was some kind of mechanical failure, then that preceded it, that's all the more reason to take a tow.
Yeah.
So that part is literally unexplainable to me. There's no, I can't think of a scenario that induces them to do that if it was their own decision.
Were there any sort of interviews with Acosta or the one crew member who didn't go on the trip? What their best guess was? What they thought?
If they were, I haven't
happened?
read them. I doubt they have any clue what happened to them, or if they did, they weren't saying.
Yeah.
Nothing that I read. No, they may have, but I didn't
Right.
read it. So to me, though, their decision screams that it wasn't their own. They were not making that decision of their own volition. I don't know what it was. Something or something or someone was forcing them to sail away from where they should have been, to then refuse help, and then to again go in the wrong direction for some reason. I don't know what it was, and how that ended with the 3 crewmen no longer being on board.
Right.
That to me speaks to violence.
Yeah.
Something bad happened to those 3 guys there. That to me, that's the irrationality of them refusing to tow all 4 of them doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
So, or maybe on the same lines, you can say that they were in some kind of a dangerous situation, and I don't know what it was. This forced kind of a bad decision, and whatever they were doing, they didn't want to bring it back to their families. Maybe something like that. Like they were doing something wrong, or they were forced into do something wrong, and they're still in a dangerous situation. Like someone is on board them or something like that, and they didn't want that to come. They didn't want to go back to the Canaries because that would be, that would take that danger back to their families. I'm at the. I'm sort of grasping at straws. I can't think of what that scenario is, but something like that. But for some reason, they did not. They did not go back home. They either chose or were forced to head in the wrong direction twice. So I don't know. So it seems to me that they were forced to refuse that tow from the Duchess and to, I don't know, complete some kind of a mission.
Yeah.
And what that mission was, I have no idea. And it was likely forced upon them as opposed to their choice, but it could have been their choice. Or it could be something a little bit more prosaic, like something bad happened on the boat. Maybe something involving Julio and the crewmen, and they did something bad to him or something like that.
Yeah.
Maybe. But that why would that explain? Now why though? They didn't kill him.
Right.
So why you're still gonna, even if you did something bad to Julio or something like that, why are you going to you're never going to go home again?
Yeah.
And you're not. So I don't understand that. Or did they plan on? For sure, Julio didn't overpower the 3 of the other crewmen or something like that. So in my mind, the most likely thing is that those 3 bodies were tossed to sea by bad actors, somebody, and Julio was able to not be tossed, either overlooked again because he was not supposed to be on the boat, didn't know he was there, he was able to hide. Then, of course, that brings up though, it's amazing that he was able to hide in that small of a boat below deck, but. So he writes those 28 pages, then who rips them up?
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense. Who rips them out and where do they go? So I don't know. The Anna de Mayo that found them wouldn't make any. Why would they do that? They have no reason.
Maybe by the time. Well, that doesn't make sense either.
Yeah, I know it. I guess. So let's say this: he was found. Julio was able to hide below deck by made these bad guys come on, right? But then he's found and he's killed later on, giving him a time to write those 28 pages, and the bad guys rip out those 28 pages, and then then they kill him. He's killed last, essentially.
Yeah.
And they, for some reason, where they've tossed the other bodies over, they leave him on the boat and just let it drift. Who cares? He's dead.
Yeah.
Or you could even reverse the timing and say that Julio may have been killed before whatever the mission was, the delivery, whatever it was accomplished, and his body was left below and the others were thrown overboard because they went to do whatever, complete the mission or something like that. Or maybe they were taking a different boat to do that. And again, he was able to hide, but that's the one where it doesn't make sense with the 28 pages. Yeah. So that's why I think it's more likely he was hiding, writing the 28 pages, and someone found him.
Yeah.
Took the 28 pages. Why not just dump the whole notebook? I don't know.
Exactly.
That's weird. So that's again. And again, in terms of what it was, drugs, guns, or something like that, or a fugitive or something like that, I have no idea. We'll never know.
But also, okay, if it's something like that, there was a human being alive who knew.
Yes.
Because
that's true.
Whoever they were working for, or whoever gave them
probably several.
Yes.
Yeah.
So how somebody didn't tell somebody who didn't tell somebody. I get that the first place, people are not going to say something because that implicates them in something bad that resulted in 4 deaths. But along the line, the game of telephone, somebody who there's no consequence for, hey, I know what happened.
Yeah.
Or I know.
True.
You know
or decades later.
It comes out.
Like, I'm 89. Exactly. I'm going to tell you what happened. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
You would think.
My grandpa told the story about blah, blah, blah.
I know. If there are stories like that, I've never heard them.
Yeah.
I know you're going to disagree with me here. Are you going to bring up a good point? I'm guessing, but it could have been something like the crew was up to something no good, and Julio found out and wrote about it in those 28 pages.
Right.
And they found that, ripped the 28 pages out, and killed him. But if so, what happened to them? And B, of course, why would they take him? Again, all you have to do is be a dick and say no.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're going to seem like a jerk, but that's better than, running drugs with this passenger on board.
Which I don't, yeah.
I don't think so either.
Yeah. And like I said, if they were doing stuff like that, there'd be some evidence for it.
Yeah.
Somebody would know. Somebody would be suspicious. Somebody would.
Yeah. And don't ever tell, name of a child, all that has happened to me. You know that God wanted this fate for me.
Yeah.
That almost implies that Julio was doing something consciously, which makes no sense because he was never supposed to be on that boat.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That his last line is also just as weird and mysterious, even with the 28 pages. So again, it seems like he would have expected Luz to have been able to read those 28 pages. Otherwise, he's just being weird.
I just interpret that as God works in mysterious ways. God has a plan for everybody. That kind of.
I don't know.
Stuff.
You know that God wanted this fate for him. Yeah, it could be. It could be. But that's still,
I mean, that's a translation. So, it sounds weird to us, but who knows? So,
okay, but think of the timing, though. If he wrote that and then he writes that's his last line, that's his goodbye to his wife, and then he writes the 28 pages and that are ripped out? Yeah, because they're the page before, the ripped out 28 pages.
Oh.
That's weird, isn't it? You think they'd be after that. They weren't. And then if someone else ripped out the 28 pages or him beforehand, he then writes on the last page he has left remaining this goodbye note. If he's doing that, he knows the 28 pages are gone, so it doesn't make any sense. He's being cryptic and weird. So even the timing of that is a mystery as well.
This is a mystery.
This is a big one.
I don't like it.
What does seem certain is that those 28 pages did hold some kind of account of something bad, some kind of crime was committed, and the perpetrators who were involved. Otherwise, those don't get ripped out. But the only other certainty is that the fate of the Fausto will always be shrouded in mystery. We don't know. We're never going to know.
No.
Like I said, we would not have an answer for you. We took a best guess. Again, my best guess is that they were forced to do something bad by bad people, and they, didn't live through it.
That part is weird because
super vague. I know,
because very quickly a lot of boats were out looking for them.
Yeah. I know. That's also weird, too. You think they would have been found.
Yeah.
And they were just sort of stumbled into by the Duchess.
And somebody would have said, but I saw whatever boat around
I know,
whatever. I don't know.
Then how are they not? Well, because that implies that they sailed west very quickly, very soon, and they're going west the entire time, or much of the time. They were never heading back toward La Palma. They were going out to the open ocean.
Yeah.
For some reason, were they forced to go meet a ship out there or something like that?
Which again doesn't make sense. Why would they have brought Julio along?
Yeah, I know. Well, no, unless they were forced.
Oh, immediately
after the fact.
Yeah.
Somehow, are literally Julio's on board, everything on board, and someone, as they're literally pushing off, someone boards them with guns and says, "You're going where we tell you to go and doing what we want you to do," and they have no choice.
And it was late at night that they were leaving.
2:30 in the morning,
So it's
so
not
some
like
bad guys. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
It's not like it would be a hustling, bustling dock with lots of people around.
Like, was there a crime committed on the island right before, and the person's running away, and they run to the dock, and they just literally got to have a gun, a person or persons, criminals, and they jump on the Fausto, because it's about to leave, and Julio's already on board.
That's the best scenario.
But it's still weird. What's their plan? Where are they going? So say it's just a one fugitive with a gun. He could be below deck and telling them, you tell the Duchess, and he's trying to figure out where am I going to make them drop me off?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
He could have, and maybe he tells him to go west because is he going to, the sea lanes have boats. Is he going to try to hitch a ride on a different vessel that's going somewhere far away from the Canaries, like to South America, as because he's a fugitive?
Yeah.
Something like that. If that's true, I've never read anything about there was this, this
Right.
murder on the island right before they left.
Yeah.
Or the day of or something like that. So I don't know. Huh. That's the mystery of El Fausto.
Darn it.
A very strange tale of not just a disappearing boat, but a boat that had no business disappearing and easily and was undisappeared and just pissed it away.
That's very sad for the families involved.
It is. Especially Luz. She was a good woman.
Yes.
The poor little kids. 2 small children.
Yeah.
So that's it for the tale of the Fausto.
Well, thanks,
We hope you
Dean.
enjoyed. You're welcome.
Something for me to worry about now.
Okay. You don't really. Carrie, it was a long time ago. It was over half a century ago. It's okay.
It's in my lifetime, though.
Yep. Kind of. Barely.
No, I have a lifetime.
Don't tell everybody how your age, Carrie. Come on. You're supposed to be vain about that. So.
I'm absolutely not vain about my age. I'm proud.
Okay, Carrie. That's the story of El Fausto. We hope you enjoyed it. We will see you next time. Bye.
We won't see you, but you will hear us.
Good point. Yes, I say that a lot, don't I?
Yes, you do.
Okay.
But thanks for listening.